Today we have a guest. We have Kevin Cramer here from the Palm Collective. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome. So yeah, my name is Kevin Cramer. I am the co-founder and the director of community engagement at the Palm Collective, located in the nation's capital, in Washington, D.C. But we are an abolitionist organization that centers seeing intersectionality, bringing together grassroots organizations who are on the front lines fighting for collective total abolition. But yeah, we're Black and led, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today.
Thank you so much. I want to start just by talking a little bit about you. I read your bio and I've heard great things about you. Kevin sounds like an amazing activist. He was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware, where he graduated. Actually, I'm really glad you put this because this really matters. He graduated with his class had a rate of 13% graduation for boys of color. And he graduated. Kevin navigated the intellectual oppression, these are his words, that is the United States education complex with a learning disability. And I'm a special education teacher, so I especially appreciate that. He's the first male in his family to graduate from high school and college. That's amazing. Amazing, amazing. It's not easy. Kevin fights against white supremacy and capitalism. And he's determined to hold, this is what I loved about you, determined to hold elected officials accountable, oh my God, to the American people, defend democracy against the American government, and amplify the marginalized, neglected, and forgotten Black, Brown, Indigenous, and queer voices. And I love it. He's the co-founder of the Palm Collective, and he's been organizing and protesting on the front lines of Washington, D.C. for over a year. And lastly, and I swear I will be quiet, he's an aspiring abolitionist, and Kevin has imagined a new world order where Black life is valued on all 7 continents. And that is so beautiful, I cannot even say. I have to jump in really fast and say, welcome, Anastasia. I didn't get to really say hi. I'm like, oh, we have a guest.
Hello, salutations, my love. Kevin is amazing. And I met Kevin, and it's when I first came to DC. And he was just talking his shit to them people, especially those white folks. I forget what the name of that street is. AT Street or U Street?
Yeah.
Remember? Because you was like, Black people used to live here. And you was like,
so that's what the chants we do. It goes fire, fire, gentrify, and then you and then you say fire, fire, gentrify. We're like, Black people used to live here, and then we go like Native people used to live here, and now we started one where we say colonizer, colonizer. But like, yeah.
Wow.
You sound shy. You sound really shy.
I heard him say that, and them white folks, you should have seen the look on their faces, and I was like, yes, I need to go follow him wherever he's going.
Oh, sweet.
That's what happened. That's literally. And then I seen Afeni, and she started giving them the smoke and the business. And I was like, I need to be wherever they at. This is where I need to be at. So
I love that. Thank you. And I received that. That. Thank you so much.
Anastasia, that's kind of how I felt with you. That's why I harassed you for like 3 years straight. I did. I'm just saying I'm kind of proud of it. I harassed her. I was like, you have to come on watch. I was pathetic. I just was pathetic.
Can I tell you something? I'm the type of person, I love stalkers. Because it's 3 things I know, seriously, about a stalker. They are of one mind. Mm-hmm. They're not going to go follow anybody else. The fact of the matter is, who is going to love you enough to want to wear your face? And they're goal orientated. I mean, what else can you ask for? So I'm about that life.
Oh, Anna, you're funny. Oh boy, that's that's very cute. But I was all over this woman because I was like, she is good. Wow. Thanks for being here, and I'm so interested in what you do. I have to kind of confess, I went to DC for the first time during the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, and I was like hypnotized. I was like, oh my God, I have to be here. I went to Black Lives Matter, I guess they call it Plaza. I don't even know because it was so long ago. And somebody, okay, I'm just saying, this is so arrogant of me. Somebody walked up to me and said, "Are you angry soccer mom?" I was like, no, come on. And I was laughing my head off. And that's the last person ever recognized me anywhere. I was laughing. It was so sweet. In DC, I had to go all the way to DC. But I loved that place. I was so, God, it
Yeah,
was.
Black Lives Matter Plaza does mean a lot. Yes and no, because first and foremost, that it was very performative of
Yes.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It was
of our
performative.
coon of a if I may say, our very opportunist mayor, who decided while people were getting their asses beat and their asses handed to them, people got shot there, people were brutalized there. That's a lot of people can't even set refuge on that space because it's so triggering because of the level of violence that was committed to Black bodies, allied bodies, co-conspirator bodies, brown bodies, yellow bodies, red bodies that were there during the uprisings of 2020. But it did spark the conversation nationally that DC was the first place to do that, to put that on the ground, that Black Lives Matter, and it did pop up everywhere in other places. But for most people in DC, it's a tourist location now. It doesn't mean the same thing. It doesn't mean the same place it means. It's been colonized. Like, if
That's so interesting, the use of words, because when I went there, it was right when they had just made it. Like,
when I say it went there, my organization during that time was the ones protecting the art on the Palm Collective. That was one of the first things we started doing because the White House had a fence around it for so long. And then we took that space and we turned it into a space of community, a space of refuge, like honing the street. That place was occupied. The H Street, which is connected to Black Lives Matter Plaza, was occupied for 3 months. From June, July, and August, was occupied for 3 months. Every Saturday night, we were doing midnight yoga at midnight. There was mutual aid being given out. Like, black businesses it was becoming a mecca. Black businesses were there with their carts selling Black Lives Matter T-shirts and all types of stuff. And because that's good for the city, that those things don't exist anymore. That's not there.
They don't do that anymore?
No. You're not allowed to. There is no vendors allowed on the property. There's no selling allowed on the property. It's been colonized. It's been whitewashed. It's been gentrified. It's been stolen. Even it's kind of funny to say things are stolen, but it's been stolen just as the land itself is stolen. But yeah.
Because Kevin, when I went there, there were people protesting. It was the most. I mean, there were vendors everywhere. There were people. I had interviews with every person on the plant. They were coming up to me, going, giving me it was amazing. It was like a mecca of people who cared about the same thing. It felt so authentic. And then to hear this, and I was talking to all the vendors and they were telling me what's going on, what happened yesterday. Every night I was there for a really long time. There were things going on, there were protests, and oh my God, all hell was breaking loose there. So it's not like that anymore?
No.
It has been that way in a very long time.
No.
That was a long time ago. That was my first time. And then wow.
From what I understand, Kevin, I thought they were supposed to be painting over that.
So they actually didn't paint over it. Remember, it was originally spray painted. At first, it was spray painted. It said Black Lives Matter Plaza, and then allegedly another organization came out and they put out. This organization, they claimed respect for. They claimed ownership of it, and it said they added defund the police in the same level of paint that was used, so it couldn't come up fast. And then after that was removed, they didn't remove Black Lives Matter Plaza, but they removed defund the police. On the night of the March on Washington, a coalition of organizations that are in the part of the collective, as I would say, because we don't have membership at the Palm Collective. You ladies on the phone are part of the collective. The collective is people that are in the business for fighting for Black liberation and seeing the intersectionality. You are the collective. So people watching. But yeah, so
interesting. So they basically gentrified it just like they did everything else. That's terrific.
So now it's actually not spray painted. It's actually like cement. Like, it's a part of the street now. So like, imagine if it said like, it's like they took like stones and like put Black Lives Matter Plaza on the street. It's the street. You can walk it if you want to. But cars drive up and down it now. Like, yeah.
He's right, because when we go to DC, like I said, it's right there.
Even all that art, sorry to cut you off, but all that art that was up, all the art that was
it's gone.
All of that is gone. All the banners that were those big banners.
All of it.
I think the only banners that are on that strip belong to the church that is on the corner, who has art. But every other piece of art that was created has supposedly been sent to the archives or been sent to Howard University.
I have videos and videos of that. I videoed everything. The police,
and every time they tore it down, my organization can partner with other organizations like Freedom Fighters and Until Freedom and Concerned Citizens and like BLM Co-op, which turned into Good Trouble, and like a lot of other organizations came together and just kept putting the art back up. At one point, we had to actually defend the art and defend the Plaza against white supremacists and also the Proud Boys coming to DC. Before they came to the Capitol, they came to DC 3 times. So we already knew that the Capitol was going to be attacked before the Capitol was even attacked. But yeah, we had to even defend the Plaza against those people. Like I'm talking about sleeping. There was, I would say, 500 people on Black Lives Matter Plaza. But outside of that, we were surrounded probably by like 1,500 white supremacists.
Oh my God, that's terrifying. The police presence when I was there was like outrageous. I can't explain.
Well, what do you expect? DC is a police state. Like yeah, DC has 40 different types of policing.
It was, oh my God, you are a wealth of information. And they had just put that fence up and everyone couldn't believe it. It was crazy when I went there.
But AngrySoccerMom, the issue with the police is like I said, when we first got here, me and my husband, the first week we was here, and I know Kevin remembers this, when the Pentagon police shot those 3 people and killed 2 of them because they were going into their own car and didn't listen to his order. Every week we were going to a vigil. These cops are being trained by Israeli police. They're either getting sent there.
Krav Maga, like the Israeli martial arts and all that stuff. That's very dangerous.
Israeli police who are brutalizing the Palestinians. They're training
Krav Maga. Yeah.
Right. Damn. They're training them here or sending them to Israel to get trained.
That's the militarization of the United States and police brutality in this country go hand in hand. I think it was the 80s or the late 90s that they found out that the U.S. was then sending leftover machinery, mechanics, and like tech to the police forces here. And that's why they want to increase the police budget, because increasing the police budget garners more support for the military. Like the whole Pentagon needs to be defunded and abolished, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, no, don't even get me started. I'm absolutely, absolutely. And even in my, go ahead.
The 1033 program started under Barack Obama. And for those of you out there that don't know what the 1033 program, that is the procurement of military equipment for local police departments. And there's a website that you can actually go and find out in your state what your police. We have police officers in Washington and in Virginia that have grenade launchers. Up armored vehicles that I rode in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I don't think a lot of people understand that they have equipment that we use in combat for the citizens of this country.
But they won't understand that because most Americans can't even wrap their brains around why the police need to be defunded and abolished. And granted, I do charge to the game that they haven't took the time to see equity and justice. But if most Americans are caring about their money and care about where their money is going and how their money is spent, well, let me elaborate to you that you are committing. I'm holding you accountable to the slaughter of Black people. You are committing second-degree murder, first-degree manslaughter. Why? Because your tax dollars, when you write your tax, when they take your taxes from your check, your tax dollars are going to the brutalization and the murder of Black and brown and Native and queer people. So you need to be very mindful and conscious, and you need to know that that's where your money is going. And if you care enough to know if you care about your money over our lives, you need to know that, damn, at least you know you're funding it. You are funding our slaughter.
Absolutely. You know what?
They are using the American people to fund the genocide of Black people in this country, and they've been doing it ever since they decided to negotiate and come to the shores of West Africa.
And you know what, Kevin, I was going to jump in there and add, I want to piggyback on that. The people who are actually being slaughtered, the brown, black, and just, they're paying taxes too. They're actually paying these people who are brutalized. I mean, it's just insane.
That's because we have become so numb to getting our asses beat. When it's like being in an abusive relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're in an abusive relationship, people actually like, why do women go back? It's the same? It's the same thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? When your oppressor is violating you, when you are being abused, we are in an abusive relationship with the federal government of the United States. And we have now been conditioned, just like since slavery was conditioning, like breaking the body, breaking the mind. This is all conditioning. Why? So you can be submissive to the oppression. So we're so used to being brutalized that first thing we accept it, we acknowledge it, that it happens, we do nothing about it, and then it's normalized that it's okay to get your ass beat. Why? Because they've conditioned you and trained you to believe that it's your fault and it's to be okay with getting your ass beat. It's a very abusive relationship with the United States. It's very violent.
Absolutely.
AngrySoccerMom, can I say this? When I explain, I always do personification. Anybody that's a comic book nerd knows the relationship of Harley Quinn and the Joker. Now, what they've done is they've changed that relationship. Like, it's okay to be crazy. It's okay to just be toxic, right? But if you really look at the comic books of that relationship, he was so abusive to her. He would beat her and rape her and all kinds of things that she always kept coming back. But as with anything, with the new movies, they've made this into a good thing. I want to be like Harley Quinn and Joker without even understanding what that real relationship is like, you know? And that's what they've done with police brutality. And they've done a number on us.
We're normalized. It's completely normalized. It's
right. And like you said, it's one of those codependent relationships to the point where you don't even question. The first thing you say, well, what did they do?
Absolutely. That's what white folks always say. And you know what? The craziest thing is, if you think about it, what other organization in this nation is it completely an open secret? There's this blue line. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody gets it. It's a line of corruption. It's a line of abuse. And if you're not doing the abuse, you're watching it and not reporting it. It's an open secret. Yet we just all, oh yeah, the blue, oh yeah, sure. It's like the blue wall, the blue line, whatever. It's people have it on their freaking flags. It's like, it's shameful.
It's not even shameful. It's disrespectful. It's not even disrespectful. It's genocide. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I see police officers. It's like, if there's a way to have police officers serve and have a Blue Lives flag on them, Blue Lives Matter flag, it's kind of like the audacity. But you have to understand, you can't put nothing past any of these people. You can't put anything past any of these institutions. Why? Because they are designed that way. Like, you know what I'm saying? These are intentionality. Like, police officers evolved from this country from slave catchers and slave patrols. Like it's like that.
It's broken. It's working.
I'm expecting from them. I'm not expecting them to change into it. I'm expecting them to evolve because that's what they've done. But that's who they are at the heart of who they. That's the heart in the core of their being. So that's why there's no good cops in a racist system. That's why there's no fair judge in a racist system. That's why there's no trustworthy politician in a racist system. And not to say that and I'm not saying that there's not good people in the world that become cops, or there's not good people in the world that run for office, or they're not good people in the world that become politicians. I'm just saying that in an institution that takes the time to be deliberate and to be intentional with how they, with creating a society that is built on oppression, that is built on the labor, the abuse, the murder, the genocide of other people, there's no way to even correlate reforming these things. And that's why they all have to be abolished.
And we're still doing it. I mean, people say, oh, that was the best. No, it wasn't. I just wrote somebody this thing along. And the problem is, a lot of white folks don't know our own racial history. We don't even know our own history. We don't want to know it, obviously. And so we don't know what we don't know. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. We don't know so much that we don't know how much we don't know. So we think our opinion is equal to those people having to live this in this system of what I consider ongoing crime against humanity, which is systemic racism. And people, that's why I try to educate, but this giant system is powerful. And I tell people the system is working as planned. It has to be dismantled, and being nice to everybody is not going to dismantle it. I mean,
but just like Talonda said, I know I say this all the time. You cannot get good fruit from a rotten tree. You can't. There's no way for you to do it. And so everybody's talking about, well, my feelings are hurt when you say defund the police. I really don't give a damn. Because at the end of the day,
it's not about feelings. Like I said in my last tweet.
This is my point with people make me very upset about when they say they don't understand about defunding the police. Forget Black people being murdered. The police still need to be defunded. Why? Because why is it okay that the United States government invests more money, and it's not just in urban areas or crime-ridden areas. Most police officers, most police forces in this country are receiving way more money than the needs that are happening in the community. The amount of money the police get don't add up to the crimes and the violence committed in the areas. So why do they need all that money? It's about power and it's about control. Absolutely. Because if the police were defunded, that money can then go into social programs. That money can then go into the elderly, infrastructure, education. There's no reason why police. I literally watched on CNN like 2-3 weeks ago that on Fox News or someone was literally saying that teachers should go find better jobs. What are you talking about? Why is there not a level of investment in putting money into our communities, into our citizens, and I say that across the board. We all know that in the United States, the public education system sucks. We all know that transit sucks. We know that the water sucks. We know there's a lot of horrible things that suck in this country. Like, we're in the richest country in the world and can't even garner health care for everybody. So these things suck. And within them sucking, somehow, some way, we got money for wars. We got money for military grade weapons. We got money to increase the police. But DC, just like most of the country, has unhoused people, homeless people through the roof. But they're not a priority. There's not that that's not their priority. It's that they don't even care enough to value their lives, because money is worth more than people. Property is worth more than people, even though they need our bodies to make their capital.
Right, absolutely. I agree. The saddest part is this country has potential, but the wealthiest elites who are running us, they're fooling the masses, and we're going for it hook, line, and sinker. And we are fools, and we've been fools because we're not catching on. And we got a bunch of people who are completely going against their own interest, which is historically normal for us, but.
That's another thing. People that go against their own interests, specifically white poor people. Those are the ones that get me the most.
That kills me.
Because they would rather cut their own noses off, because they know for a fact that they've reaped this is how you know that people are in tune with their privilege, even though they don't think they know it. You would rather cut your own nose off instead of increasing your education, improving your livelihood, making more people vote, having access to things, having more social programs, having more things that make your lives better, because you're the same people on WIC and food stamps. Let's not play. There are more white people on food stamps and WIC than there are Black people. Like, you know what I'm saying? So they need these social benefit programs, but they rather cut them. These programs don't get progression or even evolve. You know what I'm saying? Because white people, the majority, would rather, definitely the poor ones, would rather cut their own noses off.
That's historical.
And not have progression, because they know for a fact that if they were to garner these things, that people of color, BIPOC people, would also have to reap them. And they know hands down that they reap the benefit of white privilege.
We've talked about this tremendously. Haven't, you know, Anna and I
They
talked
rely on that. It's no shade, no tea, ma'am. Especially white women.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we talk about that all the
talk
time.
about this all
Do
the
what you need to do. We just last week we talked about that. When affirmative action was for white people, they didn't have a problem with it. When the fact of the matter is these legacies and these white people don't have problems with handouts. They have a problem when everybody else is getting them.
Right, they'll spite themselves just to not have it. Yep, absolutely. Like the pool situation. That's what we did with public pools. We might not have public pools, but as long as you don't, that's all we care about.
Right.
Little Rock, they closed the freaking school just because there was going to be integration. Well, you know what? We might not have school, but as long as the white folks, we won't have school because even though we need school, as long as you don't have it, that's what matters.
Yes, I'm reading this comment, Mr. Dave. They're like, what system does that? It's so weird. I was just in Birmingham, Alabama, y'all, with Arm in Arm, centering racial justice, centering the climate crisis and racial and economic justice because it has to. There's no Build Back Better, y'all. There is no Green New Deal if it is not centered in racial and economic justice. I'm gonna get. If we want to talk about that, I can get to that bag too. But the idea is that yes. Like places like Alabama Power, who are strategically taxing these black communities more and reaping more of their money in Alabama, in Birmingham, but then using that money to then infiltrate their elections. Like it's so disrespectful that in the same breath that black people put Joe Biden in the White House, gave him the Senate and the House, even though political power and politicians are not going to garner our freedom and our liberation because I have no faith in them at all. But we did that nasty stunt, you know what I'm saying? And in that breath of doing it, in the same breath, it's been a whole year and he has still haven't cracked down on voting rights to protect our votes. So that, see how disrespectful that is? That as we gave you your job, your title, and gave you a blue Senate, a blue House, and a blue White House, you can't even protect the votes of the people who put you there. And majority of those people were black women.
No reparations. No reparations. He's not worried about the healthcare system where most black women die still in childbirth.
Yeah, much more often than white women.
The simple fact of the matter is that we are genies. I always say that. We can give everybody their own wishes and make everybody's dream come true, and we still can't free ourselves. And just to your fact, they are disrespectful because they think that we are just going to sit around and let that happen again.
And that's the point where black people are going to sit around and let them do it because this is part of the complacency. Like, you know what I'm saying? Malcolm X said it best. He said, don't be scared of the wolf. You know what I mean? Don't be scared of the wolf. At least you know the wolf is coming. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, if the Republicans are the wolf, at least you know they come and be afraid of the fox. Even the Bible talks about that. I'm no fan of that either. But like, you know what I'm saying? They say people are in wolves in sheep clothing. Like the sheep is the person you need to be afraid of because those are the ones going to smile in your face, you know what I'm saying, and then eat you out, or then eat you on the sideline, stab you in the back while you looking them in the front. Somehow, some way, they'll still get you. And those are the Democrats. They come to our cookouts and come to our barbecues, and they lie to our faces, and they're no better than a prostitute. No shade, no tea. Even though sex work is sex, but they're no better than them. They come to us, and they come to us. And at least the Republicans, after they get done, they leave. The Democrats want to cuddle you, try Netflix and chill with you, and then leave you in a wet spot, and then they don't tip.
But you know what? The thing about it is, you know, you know what I think about that movie Zootopia? Who was the one running everything that was going on? The sheep. The little sheep that nobody paid attention to, and white women basically put Trump in power.
Absolutely.
And I'm not bringing that up to say that, Trump is this aberration. Biden is trash. He's been trash for 30 years. He's been a racist for 30 years. He just has a blue tie on, and the rest of them had red ties on.
They are all they are two wings of the same bird, y'all. You got to understand who we're dealing with. These people are not living our lives. If they were living our lives, I put a question. If America is such a business, if they really cared about you, name how many business owners when the COVID crisis happened had to take pay cuts to keep their employees on, had to sell shit in their jobs to keep their employees on. If we really even meant to them, even in capital, because that's all we are to them is capital, why did no one in Congress take a pay cut then when the pandemic? None of them took a pay cut then. No one in Congress took a pay cut then. But somehow our capital doesn't mean anything to them. So when that says to y'all, what that means, y'all, is that we are moving in. They are moving in different spaces than we are. We are here playing checkers and chess. They just want to make sure that we get up and go to work the next day. Why do you think shit's opening sooner? It's about money.
Right. Money over humans. Money over humans. Capitalism on steroids over humans.
The sad thing about it is that we pay for their health care. We pay for them to go to the gym. We pay for their doctors and their nurses and a stipend so they can have healthy food.
We're paying for their rapid tests. We're paying for these things, y'all. Like, this is where the money comes from.
Yes.
And that's why people need to garner people power. Like, what happens when you don't get that 89%, like, what is it? 86%, 0.5% of the vote. What happens when you don't get it? What happens when people don't show up to vote? Not just Black people, all of us. What happens when we don't show up to vote? And there's no one comes to the polls, and the shit doesn't just, like, the system don't work then. Like, you know what I'm saying? What happens? Because what's the point of this online in the first place? So it's voting gets me into a whole bug. But at the end of the day, it's people power. And I think if one thing I've learned over the last 2 years of choosing to be on the front lines is that it does take a 3.5% of the population. Any historic event we ever seen in history, the Civil Rights Movement, the French Revolution, anything, any world recorded event that you've ever seen has taken 3.5 of the population or more. 11%, that's 11 million people or more to even move the needle to the reality that we get to live today. And if we censor these things in justice, and not just any kind of justice, because justice doesn't start from the bottom. Justice doesn't start at the top. It starts at the very bottom. So that means that the people at the bottom, the most marginalized people at the bottom, specifically, is Black, Brown, Indigenous, not Black, Brown, Indigenous. Within that Black, Brown, Indigenous, it is your queer Black, Brown, Indigenous, non-binary people, trans people, and within that, it is your darkest skinned Black, non-binary, trans people. And why? Because when they receive justice, freedom, and equity, then justice and freedom and equity will be seen for it will go up. And if you think I'm lying,
I agree 100%.
Not lying. I'm saying if you think my psyche doesn't make sense, look at all the freedoms that everyone gets to garner right now because Black people put their bodies on the line. Look at everything that you get to get right now because Black people put their bodies on the line. So if you trusted it, then trust it now. But let us actually fully win and not get those nasty reforms the Civil Rights Movement gave us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because if it wasn't for Black people that from then, you wouldn't be able to go to the schools you wanted to go to. You wouldn't be able to marry the people you wanted to marry. You know what I'm saying? That's for white and Black and queer people. Like, you know what I'm saying? There wouldn't be a housing act. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have the right. Not just color, not just Black people, but BIPOC people in general wouldn't be able to have the right to vote if Black people didn't put their bodies on.
Affirmative action. White women.
Black people got those things. Everybody else reaped the benefits of them. Because I'm sure, goddamn, skippy, the sign said colored, and that was all of us. Even though
if you look at affirmative action, white women, that helped more white women than it did any Black person. But the simple fact of the matter is, most white women will go against affirmative action, not understanding that, you're in a cage too, right? Your cage might be a little bit closer to massa or that domestic terrorist that you call a husband, but you're in a cage.
Right.
You're in a cage.
People forget that the rising tide brings all ships up, and it's because part of it is, to be honest, the white supremacy stuff, we don't want to go up if they go up. And that's been historical.
Because it's the connection to whiteness. It's the privilege. You know what I'm saying? And that same thing has been seen before. You got to remember that when people were migrating to this country in the late 1800s or late 19th century, early 20th century, like the Jews, the Polish, the Greeks, all those Eastern European
Irish,
people,
Scottish,
they were not
Italian.
They were not white.
considered colored. They had to drink from. They were in Jim Crow America at that time. They had to drink from the colored water fountains.
That's what we're going to talk about today later. Yeah,
it wasn't until the lines had to really be drawn for the United States to define what is white, because World War II happened, and when we went to war, there was only two sides you can be on when you went to war: white and black. There was no, what does he? What kind of this Polish man? What does he fall? No, he just got summed up with white people. So when they came back from World War II, white people were able to assimilate. Every time when people talk about pulling themselves up from the bootstraps, they are talking about the 1950s and 60s when. In early and late 40s, when those Eastern Europeans were pulling themselves up by the bootstraps because they were able to assimilate into whiteness finally. And I just want to do a side note: Black people never had boots. We didn't even have shoes.
Right. No, I understand.
Can I add into that? Asians were added into that as well.
If they Asian people, but Asian people.
Let's be clear about when they came to this country. They was not trying to fight for desegregation for all of us. They just didn't want to be considered as black and be treated like black people. So, and you know, I don't care about how anybody feels about it. There's a case, the Lum family, they didn't want their Asian children going to black schools, and there's a case of a Mexican family. They weren't fighting for everybody. They just didn't want their children to be treated like ours. And that's
because the United States has an anti-blackness agenda, and people appeal to it. And my thing about Asian people, definitely, my thing about Pacific Islanders and Asian people, specifically Asian people, not just Pacific Islanders, but is their ability. They assume the reason why Asian people, from my opinion, and I say in the brave spaces and safe spaces, I don't have the right or wrong answers, just saying, but like they assimilate into whiteness because they deny their culture. So, for example, most Spanish people, if they are not white, definitely if they're not white passing, most Spanish people still can feel the sting of racism in this country. If they're not white passing. Why? Because they don't abandon their culture. Asian people assimilate into Americanism and whiteness because they abandon their culture to assimilate, and then they navigate it through wealth with wealth to assimilate. And the reason why they're able to garner wealth is because how most Asian people came here with a little of something. Well, to not saying they didn't have struggle, but all I'm saying is that at least they counted as a person.
They weren't changed
when they started
as a human being, and right.
I'm not saying
no comparison.
I'm just saying at least they counted as a person when their race started. When our race started, we wasn't even able to come up to the starting line.
And the sad thing about it is they continue to support white supremacy, even seeing in the past the Chinese Exclusion Acts, all these things that happened to Asian people that came over here.
Fear is powerful. Fear is powerful, and I'm not knocking it. I've talked to Asian activists and Asian people, and look, because like I believe in intersectionality, and when I have these hard conversations, we have to have them. When I have them, they tell me about it's not just what you see on the outside is what's happening in the household. Like they will. It's fear of like what you said earlier. Like I'm barely at the table. I'm not trying to shake the table. You know what I'm saying? Like it's fear. And white people and the militia account, that's another tactic. You know, you got to understand this beast that we're talking about. They have already troubleshooted for all these things. They account for all these things. They account for the uprisings. They account for the anti-racism. You don't think that the police department accounts that how many protests do you think are going to happen this year for our annual budget?
This is all purposeful. I think that's why
they are accounting for these things. They are planning for them. They are control alt deleting this shit every single day. So don't put nothing past them that things are how they are. Things are how they are because this is how they want it to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I always say to the folks I work with. A lot of people who are beginners, I guess, if you could say, they're taking an interest. They really don't know too much, but this is all purposeful. This is all done purposeful historically. I don't know if you guys want to, for some of the new folks, to do this quick video. Tim Weiss says it very, very concisely.
Do it.
Do you want me to put that on? And then we'll go a step further. But this is great conversation, and I hope everybody who's new to this is listening. Pretty telling. This is a real quick video, but I think it's really important for new folks.
Telling whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real. But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people to kill. We just killed each other. Right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody. And everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants, who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up, and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another, or they're going to rise up and take our stuff, right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote-unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people, right? So ultimately, the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans, right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness, and they say, now you're a part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court, enter into contracts, vote, at least if you're a man, own a little bit of land, at least if you're a man, right? And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude. No more of that, because you're too good for that. And we're going to take the white men, now called white men, and put them on the slave patrol to keep black people in line. Give them a horse and a gun and a badge and make them feel big and powerful, right? They're still poor. They still don't have anything. They didn't pay the slave patrol well. Right? Just exploited them, used them as a buffer between the elite and the other poor folks, particularly poor folks of color. And pretty soon, the rebellions that occasionally happened where black and white got together to overthrow the elite, those stopped because the divide and conquer had begun to work.
Right.
Back.
Get just. So there's Tim Weiss for you. He kind of spelled it out.
But yes. This, you've seen it tons, and every time things get kind of shaky, what do? They invoke more of that. For example, the Civil War itself. This thing right here, this melanin, this good old body, this body that worked that sun from sunrise to sun. This thing's valuable. This ain't cheap. We were the equivalent of iPhones, and not the 4, baby, like the 13. This thing was expensive, and not everyone could afford it. So what do when you in the midst when Congress is creating their differentiate? Because I used to work in the Hill, and we go over. Even I don't trust their history, but like we go over it and how the breaks was happening. People were fighting. Like when I say people were fighting in Congress. People were throwing blows in Congress over slavery. Like, you know what I'm saying? About before the Civil War started. And the thing that irony, but when we're talking about whiteness, is that in capital, is that when the Emancipation Proclamation was written that liberated the slaves or the captured Africans, you're now taking away my opportunity to even own this thing, this capital. Like, you know what I'm saying? That was, and if you hear a Southerner that give this story or the recollection of like this of the Civil War, you will hear them talk about that was a rich man's war. Because all the people that were fighting were poor white people. That poor white people that didn't even own slaves.
They doing it right now. They doing it right now.
Just reap the benefit of whiteness, but in their opportunity to garner the potential of owning a person.
Right.
Because
they needed to be
wealthy people were fighting over people.
Yeah, the next video actually talks exactly about that. And think about the caning of Senator Sumner long ago in 1856.
Yep.
I mean, he basically got like mauled to death because he dared to talk about, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, and he got pretty much, that was kind of like his demise. He got one. I mean, this is.
Can I say this? So the fact of the matter is that when we're talking about whiteness, they didn't need a white person until they needed a black person. So even that, we already know that you came from a black woman and you came from a black man. Even your very nature of who you are was created by us. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about these things, they have to keep that whiteness. Because Angela Davis said this. She said, who are you without your racism? Who are you? And what the issue is, white people don't have a problem. Like somebody in the comment said, oh, they're going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court. What's the point of having a black body without a black mind? That's for the old Negro. That's not for us anymore. The fact of the matter is that they don't care if we're there. It's the fact, are we excellent? Are we better than them? Are we doing things better than them? So they don't care. They don't care nothing about Clarence Thomas being there, him and his white wife, because him and his white wife are doing what they're trusted to do, which is to uphold white male patriarchy.
Company line.
They're there up the hill, capitalism, and they're there to hold up white supremacy. Point blank and simple.
At the end of the day, though, when thinking about whiteness and thinking about how blackness was created and thinking about the propaganda that is race, and we know that race is a social complex and construct and all these things. We know these. I get the theory. You know what I'm saying? But after thinking of the theory and thinking about what we're living in, it's now to talk about the conversation of what is the cost of freedom? What is the price we're willing to put on it? You know what I'm saying? If we're saying that Black Lives Matter, if we're saying that, like, stop Asian hate, if we're saying that queer lives, whatever the lives and the matters and all the movements and all that good shit that's happening in this country, what is the price? How much does it cost? And what are you willing to pay for it? Because if our lives have value, what's the price on them then? What are you willing to pay? Are you willing to pay the price for freedom? Because our lives aren't cheap. What are you willing to pay for them? And we have to start talking about that. We have to start being very controversial about our freedom.
Kevin, in the corporate sense, that is one of the only reasons I believe they are actually starting to pay attention to diversity, is because it's about the money. And if they can prove that these corporations are losing money, they're losing people, that is their only interest. Honestly,
but let me be very honest and be very blunt about what I'm talking about. I'm talking about revolution. I'm talking about rebellion. I'm talking about not paying taxes collectively, a rainbow coalition type shit. I'm talking about not no one going to go vote. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because if that's the power, if those are things that matter, take it back. I'm not surrendering my power I need to renegotiate my social contract that I have with the federal government of the United States. I'm over the abuse. I'm over being double penetrated by the federal government of the United States of America. So we have to be very controversial about our freedom. And that means that we have to, what that means is that we have to garner the people power. And where does that start? It starts by seeing the intersectionality. It starts by seeing the vision of equity and justice for other people. It starts by taking yourself out of your situation and putting yourselves in somebody else's shoes. And I know that sounds very kindergarten-esque, but it's human. Like, you know what I'm saying? Seeing people in their complexity, seeing people as human. Because there's no way you're able to fight for my life if you don't even understand my life. Like, you know what I'm saying? And have total and having empathy for people. Because if you're unable to do those things, you can't fight for me. So you have to see each other first so that you can put yourself in each other's shoes and see the world through the lens in which I see it, which I know could be hard. I know it is hard to do, but that's when we have to understand that there is perception to things. Like if I was to draw a 3 right now and put a 3 in the middle of the room, like you could see a 3, you could see an M, you could see the McDonald's sign. I may see the letters that they say stop how you draw your birds in kindergarten. That's my art teacher used to say to me, don't draw your birds like that. You know, you draw them like M's, like McDonald's M's. And however I see it, however I perceive that image, even though I said draw a 3 and I thought it was a 3, however you perceive it, that's how you perceive things different from me. And you're going to interact with that thing different from me. And that's not about being right or wrong. It's about what it is. And if I was to say that thing is the sky is blue, and for you, the sky's always been blue, but I'm like, no, baby, the sky's not blue. It's indigo, because that's how I see it. And I need you to understand that you see it. I need you to understand that you may see things differently. So if I say that thing is the police, and for you, the police may be protecting and serving, but for me, the police is the Klansmen and the KK, the cops and the Klan go hand in hand. If that's what I see, and you know that I know that we both know together that all of our tax money is going to those people who are then brutalizing human beings, then this is where my issue comes into play. This is where the conversation comes into play. That the police need to be defunded and at any means, at the end of the day, abolished. And it's not to say that we don't need protecting and serving. I'm not accounting that human beings, before there was race, human beings was always savage. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? People going to steal, people going to kill. I'm not saying those things are not going to happen. And so I'm not saying that we don't need to have some kind of thing that helps protect us. All I'm saying is that whatever this thing is, from my perception, that you know is correct, is not working. So therefore, we need to get rid of it and start over and get something that works for us all.
Absolutely.
And that's not just the police, that's the education system and everything under the sun that the federal government of the United States is fucking up. Because we all know that we deserve better.
Well, the thing about it is everything that you're talking about is an apparatus of control, wealth, and capitalism. Because the thing about it is a people that are uneducated and unhealthy are easy to control. These things that's going on with the teachers, they want the teachers to go. You know why? Because then we can get rid of public schools. And then what happens?
Segregated. Yep.
And then you can go back to teaching the hand-me-down books to the low-income children in these other neighborhoods and uplifting these other children while everybody's paying taxes, and is going to go to those private schools that are teaching the racism and paying teachers to be an apparatus of that said racism and capitalism. The fact of the matter is, I'm not going to take care of you living in a food desert. Because if you're living in a food desert, that means what? Your life expectancy is going to go down. The fact that we know, depending on your zip code, depends on how long you're going to live, you already know that. Absolutely. So for me, it's purposely done. And Jane Elliott talked about this in a video a couple of years ago about the birth dearth. Absolutely. White people are scared about being the minority because
by 2040, white people in this country will be the minority.
Right.
We'll be treated the way we treat
Africa.
Black people now. Yeah.
Right. Just like in South Africa, they were the minority But they was running that whole entire country because at the end of the day, they had who helping them? Just like in Haiti, they had America and Europe helping them with their white supremacy. So at the end of the day, they're gonna do it just like they did it with South Africa, where they had the judges, they had the legislative putting all of these. That's why they got all these younger judges going in there. Now they about to put the identity politics with the black woman in there that put somebody away for 12 years for 8 ounces of weed. That she did that. She also was always on the side defending corporations.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
I think what we're really talking about here is that white empowered people are not going to give up their power.
No.
It's going to need to be taken.
You have to take it. But and I say you have to take it. That's the same way they took theirs. This country didn't get that. There was a whole revolution for this country to gain its freedom. And don't forget that the first blood spilled to even get their freedom was a black man.
It's a black man.
Killed by the cops. Killed by the cops.
Killed by the cops.
Soldiers.
And I've even read theories, and I don't want to go out on a limb here, but that part of us trying to separate was because we knew that the enslavement of our fellow human beings was slowing down and ending in Europe and in England. And we didn't want to. So if we're with England, they're going to make us stop. But if we're with just our own country, I mean, I've read books on that as well. You guys, this runs so deep and is so powerful and has been going on since the beginning of everything.
And it's happening on all 7 continents. Like, you know what I'm saying? The value of black life is being destroyed, neglected, abused. Like, even the climate crisis, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everywhere, black life is being disvalued. And it's the capitalism, it's the militia, it's the patriarchy. It's happening all over. And you see people rebelling. And you see it happening, and I see the uprisings happening in Tigray. I see in Scars. I see what's happening to the Muslims in China. I see what's happening to the indigenous people in Australia. I see what's happening to the people that are in Scotland. I see the people uprising in Austria. Like, I see them. I see them in Mexico. I see them in Nicaragua and also in Cuba, and I see them in El Salvador. I see these people of rebelling against their governments, rebelling against these regimes, because at the end of the day, when you have nothing else to give, you also have nothing else to lose. There is nothing else to lose, y'all.
All we have to lose is our chains. Assata Shakur told us that.
It is our duty to fight for
our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
Duty to win.
One of the things that I wanted to show the next video, because I want to impress upon white folks, especially, who don't seem to get this, don't want to get this, that we are being played the fool, and it's happened every single generation over and over from the very beginning. And if we would stop kowtowing to the wealthiest elites and start giving a shit about our fellow humans, we might be able to actually unite and get somewhere and get this country to where it should be, where its potential could be, if only we would stop living in this fake fantasy.
I want to hear whoever wrote this, that Martin Luther King said, we must demand it. And if demands don't work, because remember, a demand is verbal. Mm-hmm. There has to be action behind your demand. Like, at the end of the day, you have to take it. Like, I learned a word recently, which was called involuntary. It was called humanitarian. What is it? It's like humanitarian, like direct action or something like that. And basically, in the nicest way, it means like shutting down the streets, shutting down shit, closing shit, mm-hmm. stopping the daytime of regular society in the sake of humanity, and it's needed. Like, it's necessary.
That's why people hated Colin Kaepernick so much, is because we white folks, we love watching football. We just don't want to be reminded that these people are actually human, and he made us.
You want us to bet on us as we throw this pigskin across a field, but you wouldn't even blink twice if that your same athlete, was shot the next day.
Yep.
But that happened, remember?
Yeah,
remember one of the football players, I forget what his name was. I think he was in Las Vegas or something. And the cops rolled up on him and pulled on him. And nobody had nothing to say about it. Not
I seen a video of a black man in uniform as a U.S. soldier be disrespected and searched and profiled
at the gas station. Is that the one you're talking about?
and got pepper sprayed
Yep.
by a police officer, and he's ready to lay down his life and die for this place.
Yeah.
Girl, the brainwashing is real, y'all. It's real. It's real. You know.
All right. Let me
what
show
they say, man, it is free, home of the brave.
It would be nice. It's a good idea. Let me show this video and then we can go on. Great conversation. Kevin and Anastasia, you guys are wonderful. Amazing.
White America's love affair with racism is destroying us. It's destroying our democracy, and it's disgusting.
That was easy.
And we're letting it happen. The white masses love their racism so much in America, they'll vote or go against their own best interests just to make sure they keep their racism. And you know what? People like to, point fingers. But I want to tell you something. There is one group in this country and one group only that is absolutely responsible for the insanity that we've been enduring. And that's the white people. From the very beginning, the wealthiest people, the 1%, have fooled us all into working for them for free. And we fall for it century after century. All they had to do was convince the white masses that the people of color are the reason for all of our economic problems and why we can't make ends meet and everything like that. And we fall for it every time. Back when Lyndon B. Johnson was alive, he summarized this scam that we white people fall for. And he summarized it great. It's kind of antiquated language, but he said it all. If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down on and he'll empty them for you. It kind of makes sense, huh? White America's been scammed since the very beginning, and we fall for it every time. It's nothing new, and we are harming our brothers and sisters of color. All for a lie. The rulers of this nation have one huge, giant fear, and that is that white America will get smart and actually educate themselves and realize we have a common plight with people of color and unite with them and take over our federal government so that it works for the people, all the people, not just the wealthy corporations and wealthy individuals. This nation was started by the near genocide of the indigenous people who live here and made wealthy and prosperous on the backs of human beings, African humans, who were forced into an enslaved status so that we could get rich. Well, it wasn't so all of us could get rich, okay? But it was so white people could get rich. Centuries later, the white masses are still refusing to face our own racial history and educate ourselves about all this lying bullshit. Instead, we fall for the propaganda that we've been taught and told. And you know what? That's why systemic racism is alive and thriving in America today. And the wealthiest elites thank us for our service.
That's just for beginners. It's another step to understanding that unless we start opening up our eyes and educating ourselves, you can't just be nice to everybody. We are the problem. And sure, black folks are going to get their own. They're going to get their equity and their justice and what they want. But God forbid, white folks actually give a shit and be part of the solution or help.
They are simple component of the solution. You know why? Because Black people make up 13% of the population. Indigenous people make up 4% of the population. Like, they are the solution. They have to turn sides. We're pulling up at a time in our lifetime, y'all, where there are lines being drawn. You have to pick your side in history. There is a call to action of what side are you on type of moment.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And we have to start garnering people power so that we can take most people are so complacent with it. Even there's like light red people that are just so complacent, and blue people. Like we need to get those people to get more centered in the movement and not be so passive. We don't need allies. Allies are people that put their flags in the window, who put their signs in the show. I don't want your sign. I want your body. I want your body. I need your time.
We need accomplices.
You know what I'm saying? I need co-conspirators.
Yes.
For example, an ally is a person. Say if we're taking down the statue, even though those things don't matter because those are performative. Even though we're taking down the statues and stuff like that, a co-conspirator is the person that says, "Oh, Black person, you don't have to take the statue down. I'll go take the statue down for you." Or they're like, "Black person, stand on my back. I'll lift you up there to take the statue down." That is
willing to put ourselves out there. And yeah,
like, you understand? Ally is the person on the other side of the gate cheering you on. I don't need a cheerleader.
Right. And so many people. I hear that's a great explanation. So many people choose to just be nice to everybody. It doesn't dismantle a thing. You are upholding the status quo.
When they say that thing, nice guys finish last, they're not playing. So it's not about being nice to people. It's about being kind. And there's a difference. A kind person is a person that's going to be like, "Oh, like your breath stink." Like, yo, like if you're your friend, like, you know, people like if you're my bitch or you're my friend, like if I tell you like, "Oh, like girl, like, you know, like because if not, your friend gonna look at you like, "Why didn't you tell me that my breath stink or my fly was open?" Be kind to people. Nice people are like, "Oh, like I don't want to ruffle their feathers. I don't want them to be mad at me. So I want to be nice. So I'm not going to say anything." Right? Like what?
Status quo. Passivity is status quo. There's a huge group of people that are
white silence is violence. White silence is violence. White people need to practice being anti-racist. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's easy to do. It is a practice you have to do. You have to really take the time to emancipate your brain and relearn yourself. Not just Black people, not just white people, all people. All of us have white supremacy in us. Even Black people have anti-Blackness in us against each other. So we have to take the time to re-emancipate ourselves, emancipate our brains, and freedom think and freedom dream and imagine that maybe that the stuff we learned was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Emancipate your brains, emancipate yourself. Start freedom drinking, think freely, and question. I question everything. I question myself. Question yourself. Be your own self-devil's advocate so that you can take the time to reconcile that maybe things are different so that you can do the work. You have to hold yourself accountable to those things.
That's the thing. For white folks, we got to drop our egos and just.
It's not even dropping your ego. It's because this country has allowed people to acquit. I am not saying that a racist is a bad person, because if to accredit that people are just bad people because they're racist and that they can't change and they can't grow, evolve, and learn and do better. That's what allows people not to be vulnerable. For us to have these necessary conversations for white people to really become co-conspirators, they are going to have to take the time to be vulnerable and be open and question themselves and question racist ideals and racist ideologies and racist policies and racist practices. You have to question them. And if you do not question them and you sit there in silence, you are a sympathizer. So if you are white, and definitely if you are white passing and you choose not to say anything about racist policies and ideologies, you are then hence benefiting from the racism.
Right.
And you are no better than the person causing the harm because you sit by and watch it. And that's the same thing they tell kids in school. Don't be a bystander.
Yep. I 100% agree. And it does take a certain sense of confidence and lack of, ego to do these things.
Vulnerability.
You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable.
And for us,
and
for other people out, and for people of color, we have to have a level of grace and accountability. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that white people don't get checked. I'm a bitch and a bully. Like, they deserve to be checked. All I'm saying is that you have to move with a level of grace and accountability that you are able to keep holding them accountable, because that's what happens. White children turn into white adults, and white adults turn into white elders. And if they have power, they become the militia. And when power goes unchecked, then this is where we go. This is where we get to live in the lives we live now, because whiteness in this country goes unchecked. Because we need to get very comfortable. Society needs to get comfortable with allowing white people to be uncomfortable. For some reason, some way, we always get into this thing. Even when white people deserve it, the world tries to come in to save them. Like, oh, like, don't give them your power. They want you to act like this. They want, like, no, like, don't, no. Let them feel this level of uncomfortability. Let this Karen feel this level of uncomfortability. Why? Because she knows if she shows her ass, that her white privilege will kick in, and people in society standards will come in to coddle her and coddle her and embrace her whiteness. Even though they may tell her she's wrong, you're still coddling her from being uncomfortable.
Yep. 100%. Great point.
They need to be checked. They need to be uncomfortable. And that uncomfortability is the grace, because it's just like children. I treat white people like children. I treat you like this because I love you so much. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like grace and mercy. Remember, God has grace and mercy with us. You have to treat them like children.
Well, we have to be able to go through the pain.
I love you enough to whoop your motherfucking ass and bust you down a couple notches so I can build you up and dust you off and say, baby, are you okay? Because that's called radical love. How much do you really love human beings? Are you willing, just like your kids? If your kids, this makes sense, y'all. If your kids, and definitely for my spiritual people, like this, we talk about grace and mercy. God may send you trials and tribulations. God may give you ups and downs and battles, and you may be in comfortable situations. But what are the point of those things? Is to learn something, to build you up, to make you better. White people need to be knocked down a couple notches, a lot of motherfucking notches, so that they can be built back up. So they have to be uncomfortable situations. They need to feel the hurt. They need to be through some shit so that they can understand. That's the only way.
Yeah, well, learning will occur then when that happens.
When they get the uncomfortable situation is not the tool. But doesn't mean you're not supposed to utilize being uncomfortable. Because if we're allowing white people to not be uncomfortable, what's the point then? What's the point? If the point is to let them stick to the status quo and keep their normalcy and allow their white privilege to save them from uncomfortable situations. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not giving white people the time of day. No, because if they were a BIPOC person, no one would come into their aid and be like, oh. No,
it's true. That's kind of what I've based my entire platforms on, is moving people along. And yes, there's pain involved. There is. And, but that's how we're going to get there, because we have this huge, giant, massive, powerful push that's all on us. And from bottom up, it is a toughie. Bottom up is tough. So,
but just like Kevin said, that nobody cares if we're uncomfortable.
Right, exactly.
Nobody cares. If a black child is called the N-word, oh, you got to be the better person. Damn that. Because I can tell you right now, I've told my children, you let them know one time. And what is, like he said, he equated white people to spare the rod, spoil the child. They call you that again, and they're gonna learn. This is why it was so messed up about when we see these videos. I don't know if you've seen the video of the black man telling the white man, "Don't call me the N-word," and the white man is like, "What?" And he smacked him with an open smack. Remember that?
It's right on my channel, yeah.
Or these Karens. I still remember they were at a protest, and a Karen grabbed something from the black girl and she knocked her lights out. Like, you won't do that again.
Here's the thing. People are dying, okay? Our feelings cannot be thought of as to come before black and brown people's lives. We don't have time to talk sweetly and gently. No, people are dying. And if white folks don't get that, they need to understand this. So
it's you got to understand
urgency.
that you got to understand, and that's another thing that we got to understand is that in the midst of a revolution, there's sad truth and reality. There's going to be a lot of good people, places, and things that's going to get left by the sideline. And I'm on my Harriet Tubman type shit. I'm not dealing with people that Harriet Tubman would have shot. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm getting to freedom by any means necessary. You can either come along with me or you can step to the motherfucking sideline. When Harriet Tubman was on her way to freedom and niggas was acting out, she pulled her double-barrel shotgun out and or her pistol, whatever that gun was, and was like, there's no turning around.
Right.
Either I'm gonna blow you out here, or you coming alone. I'm not like there has to be a standard.
Yeah, Marcus Garvey even said that. He said, "I do not endeavor to take all these black people back to Africa with me because they're no good here and they're gonna be no good over there." And the simple fact of the matter is, we have to understand what a true friend is and what a true enemy is. And these insider threat people that we have, Candace Owen, Terrence K. Williams, Clarence Thomas, they have to be outed and turned out. We can't save everybody.
That's because there's a lot of people outside. There's a lot of people fighting in movement spaces that came outside not to pay the price for freedom, but came outside because the price is right. And there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of opportunists, and for the black ones, there's a lot of opportunistic people outside, and they will be dealt with too. Their time's coming. Their time is ticking. Like, you know what I'm saying? It'll be around shorter than Vine vids. Like, it's okay. Their time is ticking too, and you're right. They do need to be exposed. But like I said before, a lot of good people, places, and things are going to get lost on our way to freedom and liberation.
Because I was having a conversation with somebody in regards to Keisha Lance Bottoms, and a lot of these black female people in these positions, if you are not doing anything for black people, you're catching that smoke too, because you're worse, because you're pretending you're a non-practicing black person.
That's a really good way to
You're
put
a non-practicing black person. You have to go. You gotta go. And as being a part of Black Lives Matter, a lot of times they'd be like, well, y'all have a lot of white people here. You know why? Because they pulled up. I didn't have to call nobody. I didn't have to beg nobody. They pulled up. They pulled up and they've been here. They've been doing it. And they're like, you know what? We're here to support you. We're not here to take over.
At the end of the day, people can say what they want to say about you, but they can never take it away from you. A lot of niggas a lot of people going to be like, I love you. I care about you. I think you're doing a great job. I support you. But do you know where you at though? Because when I see you flying, you don't pull up. So if you fuck with me the way you say you really fuck with me, if you care about me to say you really care about me, if you love me the way you say you really love me, you would support me. You would pull up then. You would be here. And that's not just going for the people that love. That's not even just going for my friends, family, and associates. It's going for everybody. That's the same thing. I got that right from the Queen of Fenty said it herself, Rihanna. When you see us outside protesting for the Anton Guilt, protesting for the George Floyds and the Breonna Taylor and the Ahmaud Arbery's, pull up. Mm-hmm. Because if you can't pull up for me, if all you can do is love me, if all you can do is like what I do, if all you can say, Kevin, I support you, even the niggas that send me money, if that's all you can do, you're going to have to mourn me then. Because George Floyd could have been me. Mm-hmm. And where were you at? You didn't even pull up.
The thing I loved the most at some of the summer, a couple summers back, was I saw for the first time in my entire life, white people standing in front of Black and brown people saying, you go through me. And I'm not saying to be savior. I'm not saying to take over. But those police were in quite a quandary when white women and white men were saying, Sure, you can get them, but you're going to go
And
through.
that's what they're supposed to be doing. And on top, and they don't get a gold cookie or star for that.
No.
But that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Because we are not the beneficiaries of our own problems. Yes, we're kind of fucking powerful. We rise like phoenixes from the ashes every single day and turn and spring like in straw, like string into gold, like Rumpelstiltskin. But doesn't mean because we're magical. You know what I'm saying? Like doesn't mean we supposed to be the one fixing this shit. Like we can lead it, but I'm putting y'all bodies to work.
Yep.
Because and this is what I was saying, Surge, standing up for racial justice. White people are not ignorant. They know. There's two groups that I know of. Surge, which is for white people doing stuff, and Rednecks for Black Lives. Those people, anytime that I have a protest, Surge, and it's a bunch of white women, they are our outer perimeter. Because we know those cops are not going to do nothing to them. Because they know it's going to be consequences and repercussions.
Yep, use your privilege to empower.
Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I hate this feigning ignorance. They know what's going on. They know what's going on. And this is why they formed group. There's a White Panther group that spawned off of Black Panther. There's Yellow Peril. There's all of these groups. And you know the reason why we don't know about them? Because the government doesn't want us to know about it. We know about the KKK. We know about these white supremacists. You know why? Because they've been allowed to live. This is why I always put out Surge, Rednecks for Black Lives, Vets for Black Lives, because those are majority white groups that are down for it and ready to get that smoke.
Cool. Well, I am going to try to wrap up tonight because I think I could have Kevin and Anastasia here forever and never let you go.
Yeah, I just want to say before we go, so thank you for having me. I appreciate being here, sharing space with you. I want to give honor to my African ancestry, my indigenous ancestry, and on the Piscataway land that we stand on. Because this is stolen land. There's no freedom without indigenous sovereignty. And that we're going to get through this together by disaster design. We have to garner people power. We have to create alternatives to capitalism. You know what I'm saying? We have to be willing to do what is necessary and not as easy. It's easy to go home and just watch Jocelyn's Cabaret. It's easy just to go work sunrise to sunset and go to church on Sunday and Bible study on Tuesday. It's easy to go vote on once every 4 years and once every 2 years. It's easy. It's easy to do those things, but I'm encouraging people. I am asking people. These are the things I put in my prayers, Ashe, that people take the time to really wake the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Be conscious. You know what I'm saying? We are in a turning point in our country, and I know everybody can feel it. Shit is getting hot. It's getting very hot. The political scene is getting very hot, with women's ovaries being under attack, with black bodies being brutalized, with ICE lurking around, you know what I'm saying, with citizenship still not being granted, with human rights violations and trafficking being the highest it's been in the United States, with education going through the floor, all under a pandemic, you know what I'm saying, with people being evicted from their homes, with people not having health care, you know what I'm saying, with infrastructure being under budget, underfunded, with natural disasters looming over us. It's a lot going on in our lifetime right now, and people need to be ready to choose which side of history they're going to stand on.
There's no neutral anymore. Never. No neutral.
The most revolutionary thing you can do is the decisions you make for your life. I repeat it again, the most revolutionary thing you can do are the decisions you make for your life.
Exactly. And this is what I will say.
That's beautiful.
All of those people right now that don't want history told because they're in those pictures yelling at black people going to school, trying to poison Ruby Bridges and pouring acid in the pool. Guess what? You're next, because you're going to be in those pictures showing you don't want to wear a mask, showing you trying to burn down a Black Lives Matter banner on a church. And you are going to be seen just like them, like Carol and Brian.
Yep,
And we're going to follow you, and we're going to find you, and we're going to let people know everywhere that you were not for the revolution. You were not a part of this civil rights movement 3.0. You were not there. You did not pull up. And that's what they're afraid of. That those pictures, whatever we're going to have holograms in the next 30, 40 years, that we could, their grandkids are going to be like, ain't that me, Ma? And Paw right there, snatching off people masks and beating up Black Lives Matter people?
There's no secrets in this digital world. None.
They're going to get theirs. Yeah. Remember, it's by disaster or design.
Thank you so much, Anastasia and Kevin Cramer. It's wonderful meeting you. Kevin, you're amazing. And
please let me know when I can come down there, y'all. Let me know when there's a protest or anything. If y'all have something coming up, send me the flyer.
How can people get a hold of you? That's what I'd like to know. How can people, if they want to, join?
Also, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Kevin Cramer, the Kevin Cramer _ the brand. That is KEVINCRAMER _ and then the word brand. And my organization, which I'm the co-founder of and the director of community engagement, is called the Palm Collective. And you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we also have a website. Justice is because we believe that justice is literally in the palm of our hands.
Kevin, can you type that in right now? Is that possible for you on your
I'm
site?
doing it right now. I'm doing it right now.
And I go live tomorrow, so please tune in and please promote it. I have a show called the Why Series where we get to do just like this, and we freedom dream, and we freedom talk, and we chat. And basically the principle of the show is that we talk about why we do what we do, and I'm interviewing. I wouldn't even say interview because we don't really have questions. It's really just topics, and it's kind of like this. It's for free dialogue where we talk about things, but we're talking to activists, revolutionaries, whatever you want to call yourself, frontliners, but anybody that is in the business for fighting for Black liberation. We get to hear their why, so that they're sharing with us what drives them, to inspires them to get up in the morning and do the work, so that allows other people, the viewers, to then watch it and hone in on what inspires them to, get up and do the work. So yeah, tomorrow at 1:00 from the Palm Collective, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, we will be talking about the climate crisis, and we'll have people on from Arm in Arm from Alabama. We'll have people from Alabama and Atlanta on, at Birmingham, and from Alabama. We'll have people on the show.
Well, I'm gonna get more information on afterwards, and you are one to watch, Kevin Cramer.
Oh, just one more thing. Hoosier Badger said, what is one positive thing that we can do this week to help advance the cause? Mutual aid, showing up, being
mutual
there.
Aid. Oh, and pay Black people, like, you know what I'm saying? You can always bless a brother, like, you know what I'm saying, my Cash App. But like mutual aid is the backbone of abolition, and that's what starts us thinking about having the necessary conversations of creating alternatives to capitalism. So if you haven't gotten in guard and connected with your mutual aid networks, if there's not anything happening in your city, make up one. And remember, mutual aid is a mutual exchange and benefit between people, giving what the community needs. If we keep us safe, we also keep us fed, clothed, and housed. But yeah, that is mutual aid. And mutual aid is not just about feeding people or clothing people. It's about being radical in your love. So if that's Court Watch, if that's feeding people, if that's nursing people back to health, it's being actively engaged in a participant of your community, and elevating your community, and centering your community, and fostering your community, and growing your community, and doing those things outside of the lens of capitalism and white supremacy, so that the people that need the most help receive the most help. But yeah, the Palm Collective. Yes, that's our organization. I love it so much. 2 years,
right,
y'all. 2 years.
Talking to your racist aunts and uncles, having those intimate conversations and shutting them down.
Don't give
up. Be unapologetic about this, y'all. You see it. The same thing they say, see something, say something. If you see something, say something, like call it out, call your boss out, call your mama out, call your job, and I actually do those things because that's paying the price of freedom. That's the uncomfortable. This is the stuff we're talking about. Be uncomfortable when your boss does something and you're like, this isn't inclusive enough. This doesn't sound right. I don't like this wording. I like it don't add up for me. Hi. I'll be that bitch, and it's okay to be that bitch because they probably call you that behind the scenes anyway. So you might as well be it.
And if you have kids, your children are watching. If you're at home or in your children,
The ancestors are watching.
Yeah, good one. All right, thank you guys. All right, we got to do this again.
Well, if
Love
there's
y'all.
any way you guys to send me clips of this or videos, I would love to go back and repost it and like share it. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I'll send it to you, Kevin. Love you.
Pleasure.
Wait a second, I want to put this in here.
Okay.
Like, where's the chat at? Where's the main chat?
On YouTube on the AngrySoccerMom.
I'm trying to write in the chat right now.
Is it like
Well, I'm putting this in right now. Hold on one second before you cut it off.
No problem. But what I was gonna say to everybody while Kevin is doing this and getting it together, Kevin, that is the private chat, so we're gonna have to take that over and put it on the other chat, okay?
Okay.
The fact of the matter is that we can't do this alone. We didn't create white supremacy, and you shouldn't depend on us to tear it down. So at the end of the day, if you are not in direct collision with white supremacy, you are in direct collusion with white supremacy. Period.
But thank you guys. Love you so much.
Love you too.
And I will see you on the 27th. What is that? The 27th?
Yes. Yes.
And that's my Cash App. So please feel free to like bless the kid because
yes, sir.
I'm a full-time revolutionary.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care. Have a great night, you guys. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
y'all.
Thank you.